Tales of Olympus. I'm Ariel Igao, your host, your sea splasher, and your deep dive myth explorer. Wow, that rhymed. And today's episode, it's not just a splash, it's a full on ancient ocean wave. Because today we're going back, way back. And this is also a little about Poseidon. So, for Poseidon fans like me, this episode you'll understand the gods before Poseidon. So, anyways, it was before the gods and the titans, and even before Poseidon ruled over the sea. There was another ocean, a quieter one, a stranger one, a sea that didn't crash or roar. It simply existed. And it was ruled by two beings no one ever talks about these days. Well, some people still do, but you get the idea. There was Pontus, the silent god of the deep, and Thalassa, the spirit of seafoam and the breath of the ocean herself. We're talking primordial sea power. No lighting, no war. Just ancient waves and mysterious beauty. And guess what? Today's episode is even more special because I'm not doing it alone. My mom is here. She's not co hosting, no. She's going to voice one of the most forgotten but powerful sea spirits of all time, Thalassa. Say hello!
Hello.
Yes, my mom is literally the voice of the ocean in this episode. So when you hear her echoing through the water, just know my mom is at sea right now. Alright, get your conch shells, grab some nectar, and maybe hug a sea sponge for good luck because it's time for the sea before Poseidon, Pontus, and Thalassa. Before the gods, before the titans, before Mount Olympus touched the sky, or Hades claimed the underworld, there was no thunder, no war. There wasn't even a name for what was to come. There was only chaos, and then Gaia. You'll remember Gaia from The Origin of the Gods Part 1 and Part 2. She was the earth, the first being to feel, to form. Her body was mountains. Her breath was wind. Her skin, soil, stone, seed. And one day, she looked across her endless land and whispered, "Let there be sea." And anyways, there's tons of versions for this story, but I'm just saying this version where Gaia created. And from her soul, with no partner, no king, no spark of thunder or flame, Gaia gave birth to the ocean. Not waves, not splash, and unfortunately, not Poseidon. Just Pontus. The first sea, the first silence. Pontus didn't roar. He didn't strike. He didn't flood or pull boats into the deep. He just was. Endless. Right. Like, can you imagine the sea without storms? Like, there was no crashing and low lightning and just stillness. Like looking down into a pool so deep it never ends. And that was sort of like Pontus. They say when Gaia first saw Pontus, she smiled for the first time in her life. Not because he obeyed, not because he conquered, because he actually listened. He crawled around her mountains. He reflected her sky. Pontus was the mirror of the world. And for a time, the sea didn't need a ruler. It just needed a presence.
He did not raise a wave. He did not demand a crown. He simply held the world in his arms, and the world let go.
And from the upper air, from Aether and Hemera, light and day, came Thalassa. Not a goddess of rage, not a goddess of storms, but something softer. The whisper in the sea breeze, the sparkle. Thalassa was not born to rule. She was born to be. She didn't need a palace. She didn't need a worship. She just flowed softly over the body of her husband, and together they became the sea, before tridents, before tempests, before Olympus itself.
We were the sea, before the sea had a name.
Okay. Whew. Now, let's go to part 2 of the story. This one's gonna be pretty long. Okay, so before we continue, I'd like to say that some of you might be wondering, like, if I got confused with Pontus and Uranus. There's two pronunciations. So you may be wondering if I got confused that Gaia created Uranus, not Pontus. Well, but Pontus was Gaia's son, but born without a partner, just like how she created Uranus. And she did not cheat on Pontus because they weren't in a romantic relationship in most versions. But some myths do say that Pontus and Gaia had children together, like Nereus, Thomas, Ceto, Phorcys. Like, yikes! So if that's true, then it's kind of a weirdly romantic and mother-son. Welcome to Greek mythology. But most myths say that Gaia and Pontus were more like sea and earth. They existed together and created life, not like a couple who loved each other. So I hope that cleared that up. And before we continue, I'd like to say that The Good in Me now has the lyrics on Apple Music, Spotify, etc. And just go check that out. Yeah. So anyways, now we're back. Well, the world was young, and the sea was silent, powerful, endless, cradled the earth. But from the stillness came life. Not just dolphins and fish. Nope. The first children of the sea were gods, spirits, and monsters. Born from Pontus and Thalassa, they were strange, some beautiful, some terrifying. Some would inspire awe, and others nightmares. Let's meet them. He was wise. Well, no, you don't know who I'm talking about. Well, the first came Nereus, the old man of the sea. If you read Percy Jackson, yes, that is the guy from the Titan's Curse, where they went to the dam. DAM. Yeah, clear that up. I'm not saying the other dam. And Percy grabbed Nereus and told him to tell which monster Artemis was hunting, but Nereus just pointed on the sea and said, "It's there," and then vanished. So yeah, he got tricked. So anyways, Nereus was, well, in most myths, kind and wise. The sea in its most peaceful form. He could change shape, see the future. He helped heroes like Heracles, because unlike most sea gods, he did not try to drown anyone. They called him Truthful Nereus. You know the Nereids, the beautiful sea nymphs? Those are his daughters. So if you think of the Little Mermaid, think of Nereus as King Triton without the yelling. Well, just be clear, Triton is my literal father. Like in the Little Mermaid, my name is Ariel. Yeah. Well, if Nereus, just go back to the story I do. Well, I won't talk about the Little Mermaid anymore. Well, if Nereus was the cozy side of the sea, Phorcys and Ceto were the what is that thing side, and they ruled the dark corners of the ocean. Together, they had some very famous monster babies. They had the Grey Sisters, well, the Grey Eye, like those sisters who shared one eye. Ring a bell? Oh, yeah, that's one. And they also had the Gorgons. And yes, including Medusa herself. I know we talked like Medusa was like a beautiful priestess of Athena, then got assaulted by Poseidon. But actually, some of the myths say that Medusa was born a Gorgon. And yeah, that's very like terrifying. Yeah, and they also had sea serpents, shark-toothed monsters, and horrors with scales and wings that I do not need to mention in this episode. It is quite inappropriate. Well, like Phorcys and Ceto were like the parents of ocean-based horror films. Okay, let's take a break from nightmares. Next came Thomas, the Rainbow Connection. Thomas was their whimsical child. His name means wonder. He married an oceanid named Electra. Well, not that super scary Electra. Well, and they had Iris, the goddess of rainbows and the soon-to-be messengers of the gods, and the harpies too. Although those girls were a little more steel food and less rainbow sparkle. Well, but they're so fabulous. Well, then came Eurybia, the power beneath the sea. Not people. Well, let's just put it like this. Not many people know her name, but Eurybia was the force that controlled the sea's strength, currents, winds, and dangerous tides. She wasn't loud or flashy, but her power was everywhere. She was the ocean's strategy, not its splash. Eurybia is spelled like Euryybia, if you're wondering. So now Thalassa returns, poetic and powerful than ever.
From silence, we birthed voices. From stillness, we shaped strength. Not all daughters dance, not all sons shine, but each one carried a piece of us. Form, depth, wonder, and fear.
And so now you know. Pontus and Thalassa did not just exist. They created the sea, its calm, its color, its creatures, and its chaos. Their children became the ocean. Imagine going to a family reunion and finding out your cousins includes rainbow goddesses, sea witches, and snake-haired monster makers. Well, that's the Pontus Thalassa family for you. But things were about to change because far away in a sky about to be split by war, a new kind of sea god was being born. His name was Poseidon. Oh, Poseidon is the god of the sea, like many of you know. And we're just gonna take a short little break over here, and we'll be back on the other side with more tales. Okay, now we're back. So, before we continue, I'd like to say that, I am in Taiwan. Yeah, I am Taiwanese, just so you know. Yeah. Anyways, let's continue. So, far above the waves, a war was stirring. The skies began to crack. The earth began to roar. The calm silence of the sea was about to end. This was the Titanomachi. Check that out for our episode on the Titanomachi. It was the war between the first gods, the Titans, and their children, the Olympians. You know the names: Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, Demeter, Hestia, Hera, Apollo, Artemis. Yeah, you know. Well, so Kronos, the Titan of Time, was the worst dad ever. He swallowed his kids. Yum. But baby Zeus escaped, grew up, came back, and made his dad puke them all out, and then said, "Let's fight the old guys and take over the world." And the Olympians did. So they fought for 10 years. The sky was shattered. Mountains were screaming. Rivers boiled. Well, that's personification. Mountains cannot scream. But all that time down in the sea, nothing changed. Poseidon was still above, fighting the Titans. But Pontus stayed still, deep, silent. But Thalassa, she watched. She saw the land and sky become battlegrounds. She saw rivers run red. She saw her sea creatures hide in caves as fire rained from Olympus. That's pretty upsetting. So, excuse us for a moment. I'd like to say a special thank you for all of you that joined our subreddit. And I think it's really awesome because we're sharing tons of stuff there. And yeah, so now back to the episode.
He came with a crown of waves and a voice like thunder. He planted his trident in my waters and called them his. I did not scream, I did not rise, but I saw him, the way you see lightning from far away, bright, loud, and already fading.
So Poseidon didn't conquer the sea, he just claimed it. Like a new king walking into a castle, he's saying, "Hey, oh, this place is cool. It's mine now." But Pontus and Thalassa, they were still there. Not dead and not banished, just forgotten in every way. They became the whispers beneath the waves, the stillness, the quiet place you fear when you're all alone in the ocean. And maybe, just maybe, Poseidon only rules what's above the waves. Because below, maybe the sea still belongs to them. Okay, so. Okay, listeners, it's time for my absolute favorite part of the episode, sea time with Thalassa. That's right, I've summoned the original Ocean Queen herself for a very exclusive interview. She's ancient, she's powerful. She's 87% seafoam and 100% iconic. And please welcome Thalassa! Woohoo! Woohoo! This is so great. Like, before we introduce Thalassa into the whole, like, ask you questions thingy, you know what? I'm not never going to waste time again. Let's just go. Please welcome Thalassa again.
Thank you, child of air and voice. I do not speak often, but for you, I will rise.
I'm honored. So first, let's see, huh? Let's mix it up. Rapid fire questions. Answer in one sentence or less if you can. Ready?
The tide is ready.
Okay. Pontus or Poseidon?
The deep, not the splash.
Favorite sea creature?
Jellyfish, soft, silent, and deadly.
Thoughts on trident?
A child playing in the shadows.
What's your scariest part of the ocean that you think of?
The part you cannot name.
Oh, yikes. So, do you ever miss being remembered?
I do not miss names. I miss the silence when the world still listened.
Well, I'm listening, and so is everyone tuning in right now. Like, you are, right? Anyways, you're not forgotten anymore.
Then let the sea carry me voice again.
Okay. Thank you, Thalassa. And huge thanks to my mom, who just completely became the ocean.
Thank you for letting me be part of the story.
Well, I hope everyone at home, wherever you are listening right now, learned something today. Like, respect your elders, especially if your elder is literally the ocean. Well, coming up next, we wrap this episode with a message from the deep. And one final truth. And let's continue. So now you know the truth. Before Poseidon, before thunder shook the oceans and sailors cried for mercy, there was a sea without storms, a sea that listened, a sea that breathed quietly. And two ancient spirits held it in their hearts: Pontus, the deep, the mirror, and the silence, and Thalassa, the foam, the whisper, the soul of the sea. Well, they were never crowned. There were no temples, no sacrifices, no thrones of gold or oceans of lightning for them. But they were there from the beginning. And in the deep, dark parts of the sea, where no light touches, they still are there. Let this be your reminder that not every ruler wears a crown, not every god needs a temple, and not every story has to end with war and thunder. Sometimes the greatest powers are the ones that stay silent until someone remembers. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to do follow Tales of Olympus on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, which we recently just reached 11 subscribers. Join the Reddit community at r/Tales of Olympus Club. And remember, the ocean remembers. So keep your stories flowing. And thank you for diving into the ancient sea with me. And thank you to the voice of the sea herself, my mom, for becoming Thalassa in this episode.
I love every drop of it.
Okay, that's pretty good. And I'm Ariel, and this was the sea before Poseidon. So, let's end it for today.
Shin signing off for now.
And my name is Ariel. I'm 10 years old. And I will see you next episode.